Hello and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Greg Young, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we are very pleased you have joined us for our next live presentation from Aftermath Silver. Please note, you can submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view the company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Schedule Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Michael Williams, Executive Chairman and Founder of Aftermath Silver, which trades on the OTCQX Best Market under the symbol AAGFF and on the TSXV under the symbol AAG. Welcome, Michael.
Greg, thanks for having me. What I'll do is I'll quickly take you through a bit of a background on Aftermath Silver, and then I will run you through some of the things we're doing now currently and the news flow, and then I'll also address what we're going to do going forward. The ubiquitous forward-looking statement. Please, if you have a chance to download our presentation, feel free to have a read through that. Share structure and performance. Our largest shareholder is arguably one of the preeminent junior mining investors globally, Eric Sprott. We have just had shareholder approval to bring him up to 25%, and we have 255 million shares currently outstanding, of which Eric has 75 million of those shares. One thing I would like to point out is for those of you that know Eric, he's predominantly a precious metal investor, silver and gold. And I think one of the reasons Eric initially invested in Aftermath was due to the amount of silver that we have. And I'll run you through the resource, but it's about 120 million of measured and indicated, and another further 20 million of inferred ounces at our flagship project, Barranquilla in southern Peru. So the company focuses on silver, copper, and manganese. And it's the manganese, and I'll walk you through why that's very important. Largely, it's used in fertilizer, electric vehicle batteries, and in the steel industry. But in order to be used in electrical vehicle batteries, it has to be an oxide or a mineralization, or it has to be carbonate. And ours is an oxide deposit. There's very few of those globally, and it's going to be exceedingly important going forward. But Mr. Sprott asked to get a further position from 19.9 to 25% based on what he saw on the manganese. He believes it's a tremendous opportunity, as do we. So I put this slide in. It's the oldest customer complaint known to man. It's in the British Museum. It's Sumerian, so it's about from 3500 BC, and it's a copper merchant complaining that the quality of his copper wasn't as anticipated, and he paid using silver. So as important as copper and silver have been historically, going forward, because we're going through a transitional period as we decarbonize and go to net zero, metals are going to play an even more crucial role. I always say that historically, wars aren't usually fought over religion, they're fought over commodities. And I think we're seeing that in sort of a Cold War we're currently engaging in with China. 94% of critical metals are processed in China. And one of the ones that we have, largely manganese, they produce 94%. So I think as the West gets more aggressive, the United States, Europe, Canada, Australia, you will see deposits that are amenable to processing in the West will be all the more valuable. And you're currently seeing that in the reflected metal prices. So just in the past 24 months, to give you a sense of where we've come from, our share price has increased 325%. Our market capitalization is up 600%. We've completed a 68 diamond hole drill program. We're just putting another one together that will take us over 100. We'll have assay results out in the new year. We did our initial National Instrument 43101 resource compilation that I'll walk you through. Our initial metallurgy has been completed, and metallurgy for Barangila is critical. And as I mentioned, Eric Sprott has invested $15 million. The further $10 million has been approved for a total of $15 million. We've also been added to several silver indexes. That was just recently. So initially, we're known as a silver company, and that's why we have Aftermath Silver in our name. But as we look at the values associated with the deposit, based on current metal pricing, it's approximately 25% silver, 25% copper, and 50% manganese. It's not that the silver and copper have been diminished. It's just the growth in the manganese market, predicated on the electrical vehicle battery market, has gone up huge. It's doubled and tripled since we took on this project 4 years ago. So the key points of the company are: we do have the potential to be a large manganese producer based on our current NI 43101, which is the Canadian calculation for resources to the Canadian standards. Expect a preliminary economic assessment. It's around the corner. It should be out end of Q2, Q3 next year. We will then go to a pre-feasibility, which includes a bulk sample and a pilot plant. And all the environmental work we've done to date is to World Bank standards, and I'll walk you through that in a few minutes. And we've had interest from Peru, the US, and Europe to process the manganese outside of China. So I think that's going to be critical going forward. We could process in China, but I think there'll be such a clamor from the West, hopefully for this product, that we will be doing it in either North America or in Peru. I think one of the critical things on companies like ours is, does the management have the capability to raise the capital needed to advance these projects? And our particular team, we've raised over $1 billion last couple mining cycles. Very capable individuals. We've all been involved in multiple M&A transactions. And I think the fact is, if you have a significant resource as a junior company, we become the de facto development wings and exploration wings of the major companies. So we would expect a lot of interest, primarily when we through pre-feasibility, and we can demonstrate the majority of our economics. Our PEA out in 6 months goes a long way to also doing that. 80% of the metallurgical work should be done at the PEA process, and it's a key tenet with our Barangila project. Just quickly on management, I'm 30 years in the business, in the capital markets. I've made a career of putting companies like this together, bringing in good people, and then working to monetize them, either going to production or having another company come in and make an offer for our company. Our expertise is skewed towards development. We're not mine builders. If we had to go that route, we can do it, and we're prepared to. But I think our skill set is certainly taking companies like this through pre-feasibility and then making a decision whether you go to feasibility and building out your mine team. The CEO, Ralph Rushton, is a geologist. He has extensive experience in both with the majors and the junior companies. He spent 15 years with Anglo American, working in lots of geological environments worldwide, as well as 15 years in Vancouver on the junior market side. So a tremendous person to have running this company. Michael Parker is 25 years geologist. He was the country manager for First Quantum in the DRC and Peru. Also has extensive ESG and community relations experience. Michael is the person that put all the technical plans together, and I'll be running you through that. I always say our most important person might be Victor Grande. Victor Grande is a World Bank Development Officer. He's currently running our social and environmental sustainability programs in Peru. Peru is all about social contract, making sure the local people and the governments are on side. And to date, he's done an excellent job doing that. Barranquilla, this is our flagship. It's a large scale silver, copper, and manganese oxide deposit. As I mentioned before, in order to produce manganese sulfate, which is used in EV batteries, it has to come from an oxide or a carbonate deposit. There's only a handful of us globally, so we're uniquely positioned, and we have a large resource, which I'll be walking you through. The other key tenet to battery grade manganese EV batteries is that the purity level, it has to be at 99.8%, where our initial metallurgical results have come back at 99.9 in several domains of the deposit, which is great. That's where we needed it to be. That's where it is. What we do now, though, is we scale it up. That's on a laboratory scale. It works. We've got proof of concept. Now we build it out, and that'll be done at the PEA and pre-feasibility level. Another thing that Barranquilla's got going for it, it comes right to surface. It has open pit potential. I would think the strip ratio will be exceedingly low based on the fact that it is literally right at surface, and I'll show you a cross section on that. Now, this deposit is called a carbonate replacement system, or a CRD. It's carbonates like limestones. The fluids come up and they go into the carbonate rocks and dissolve out the limestones, and then the metals are precipitated throughout that limestone deposit, or carbonate replacement deposit, as they're known. That source of those fluids has come from somewhere. It's what we call an intrusive ore body, and we think in a lot of cases it's a copper porphyry. There are indications, we're seeing indications that there's potential for a copper porphyry on our project, and we will be drilling those. So look forward to some results shortly, and then later on the year when we receive permits on another area that I'll walk you through. But there is potential for more than just the CRD at Barranquilla. We are currently drilling. You should see assay results out in the new year. This is our 43101 that we've completed last year. For the silver, we're at 101 million ounces of measured and indicated, and inferred is 38 million. We are currently drilling to bring some of those inferred ounces into measured and indicated. The manganese is roughly 3 million, it's 2.5 million ounces measured and indicated, and inferred 0.8. And the pounds of copper is 589 million in measured and indicated, so 204.3 in inferred. So that's a significant resource. If we were just a copper company without a silver company without the copper and manganese, we, as a undeveloped silver asset, we would, I think, be one of the larger ones globally. So it bodes well for the company because we have an equal value of copper, or what we perceive to be an equal value predicated on today's pricing. It'll all be articulated in the PEA, which is coming out. And we have this manganese resource, which is significant. So I think a lot of people have probably seen these slides on silver, but because we have a key silver component, I just wanted to talk about a couple things here. One of the reasons we originally looked at silver to build a company around is silver is now becoming used also in the financial as an investment, but we see the industrial demand growing. It's now at 55%. Some people think we've reached peak silver. We will be, looks like, if the projections are right, heading into a deficit if we're not there already. And it's hard to find big silver deposits globally, and I believe that we currently have one. The other good thing about silver is the industrial use is largely solar panels, which is the highest growing form of renewable energy in China and the United States. So we have a lot of room to grow on the silver side, and our copper is the value of the copper approaches that of the silver if you base it on the current metal prices. So everybody knows that copper is it's going to be a precious, semi-precious metal. It's sort of the new oil, if you will. There is not a lot of new copper discoveries. I'll take you through that in 1 second. It's the choke point for energy transition. But if you can see the small cube on the left, that represents all the copper that we found historically in the last 5,000 years, all the above ground sources and the deposits that we currently have. The cube on the right represents what we need to meet the 2050, which is only 25 years away, goals and projections for net zero. We are not going to get there. And one of the key challenges is we've got demand continuing to increase as we electrify. The demand in the digital space is going to go from 2% for AI and, say, Bitcoin and call centers to 9% over the next 25 years. But we're not finding new deposits. Here's a slide. This is just showing you the decline in discoveries. So since 1990, there's been 226 deposits found in the copper space. There's only been 10 in the last 10 years. So we've got increasing demand, diminishing supply. I think the writing's on the wall. This slide further shows the lack, and this right here, if you can see my mouse, is showing the lack of discoveries in the last 10 years. And they're getting deeper and more expensive to get out of the ground. BHP, which this is their slide, had said over the next 10 years to meet demand, we are going to need as an industry to invest $250 billion to meet the projections. And I, for one, don't think that's going to happen. Manganese. This is our third metal. It arguably could be the most important. Manganese is now being used in all the new EV battery chemistries. Whenever you see an M in the line outlining the components, it's manganese. It's a stabilizing component. It increases the energy and driving range over cobalt, and it decreases the combustibility of the EV battery pack. So the demand for manganese for the battery sector is expected to increase ninefold by 2030. So it's in a tremendous space. This slide's just talking over the next 15 years. The demand for manganese is supposed to increase by 704%. What I'm showing here, it's difficult for people to understand the value of this particular project. So what I've done is I've just broke down the values using silver as the dominant metal, even though it's manganese, just to show you how much value is associated with the manganese. Manganese in the United States and Europe is currently trading for $2,500 a pound. So if I converted that and our silver and copper, it equates to approximately close to 1 billion ounces of silver at over, I believe it's 800 grams per ton. It's in that range. So you can see the value associated by having the high level battery grade manganese, if we can get there, what it could be worth to the overall economics. The slide on the far left shows it at $500 a ton, which is fertilizer grade. And we don't have to have a high purity level for the fertilizer. But so to date, we've got to the level that it could be considered battery grade. So just quickly, we've talked about where we expect the manganese to go to. This particular slide done by CPM saying in the next 10 years, they expect it to double in price. This is just a slide this is just as a silver company where we would stack up against some of the silver development companies. This is our measured and indicated, doesn't include our inferred. So as a silver company, it's a significant resource going forward, and that's without the copper and manganese associated with this particular deposit. This is where Berenguela is located in southern Peru. It's a deposit, it's our flagship. This is the one I'm going to focus on for this presentation. But our Chayacoyo project also has a significant silver deposit. It's at 35 million ounces measured and indicated, 10 million of inferred. It might even be a little bit more measured and indicated, less inferred. But it's a significant deposit in and of its own right. But I think it's dwarfed by what we see at Berenguela. So this is where the deposit's located in southern Peru. We have a rail line close by, which helps us get to the coast, which will be key in our processing. And also, it should reduce our transportation costs. We'll have those numbers out in the PEA. We're 6 kilometers from the rail line. We'll probably process the ore lower down, we're thinking, to avoid any issuance of having a tailings facility in the high Andes. It's at 4,200 meters. You can drive right there. There's mines at that altitude, if not higher, in Peru. But it is at altitude, and if any of us went up there, you could feel it. The local Peruvians work and live up there full time, so it won't be an issue. But at the same time, we've got to be cognizant of it. This is just showing the deposit coming to surface. That black material that you see there is just the dolomite that hosts the silver and the manganese. As I mentioned before, so one would think a strip ratio would be negligible given the fact that it comes to surface. Historically, it's been mined artisanally, maybe 2%, 3% of the deposit has been mined by local people. They were mining the high grade silver, in some cases was up to a kilogram at surface. That's a slide showing where those historical workings start. They go for 1.4 kilometers, and you can see where the rail is. The town is proximal where we get people from to work. Historically, this was a mining town. This is just our facility in Arequipa, our storage. We now have, I think, over 400 drill holes into this project, 100 by us, and then about 300 historic. So it doesn't need a lot more drilling to advance it forward. Once again, this is just showing how the strike length, 1.4 kilometers, half a kilometer across. We're seeing indications that there could be some copper targets here. And then I mentioned before, down to the southwest, we have a 2 kilometer anomaly at surface with multi% copper, followed by geophysical targets sitting below it. We will be drilling that next year. It could be the source of these fluids. Not to say it's economic. It could be too deep. It could have been eroded. But there is a chance that we might find the source. If we do, this deposit goes from a very, very good deposit to one that every major mining company worldwide would be interested in. That's a cross section. This shows how it comes to surface. High grade ore, the blue connotates medium grade. So it couldn't be better shape in my mind for an open pit. You can take a look at our core. Black is dolomite, the green that hosts silver, copper. The green is the copper, the malachite, and that's just waste rock that we need to remove. This is our current drilling. As I mentioned, we're bringing what we call inferred into measured and indicated in those areas. And we should have assay results out shortly. And one slide ahead of myself. This is the flow chart to produce manganese sulfate. So what you need to do is you crush up the ore, you pour sulfuric acid on it, and you then produce a silver doré through a process called Merrill-Crowe. With the remaining pregnant solution, you produce, looks like copper cathode through electrolysis. There's some other products we could produce, but right now we're saying copper cathode. and then we take out the zinc, we precipitate it out with any impurities, and then that produces, then we crystallize the remaining solution, and we end up, with manganese sulfate, and that's the product that would be used in battery grade. So our ESG, this deposit for ESG purposes, it's copper, silver, manganese, three of the most sought after metals there are on the planet. We use renewable energy because it comes from a hydro met, which is going to be good, where we will be using hydro, I should say. The processing, what we're going to use, the hydrometallurgy uses less energy. And as I mentioned, we're critical metals, and everything we do is to World Bank standards. So next 24 months, expect the assay results. We are going to update the 43101 once those assay results are in. We're going to drill test those copper targets I mentioned. Additional metallurgical results, PEA, should be the end of Q2, beginning of Q3. We'll begin the pre-feasibility, and we're going to start drilling at our project in Chile called Chayacoya. So be happy to answer anyone's questions. I think we have about 4 minutes left. The question was, do we expect the 43101 available in 2025? Yes, we plan on updating it, as I mentioned. We will be updating it by, I would suggest, Q2. It should be done. We have all the drilling permits that we currently need. We are applying for additional ones to drill test that area in the southwest. How does the news flow look over the next 24 months? The news flow should be, you should see drill results out within 60 days, sometime in January on the drilling we've just done over the last 3 months. Following that, as I mentioned, you'll see the 43101, and then following that, you'll see the PEA come out, which should be the end of Q2, beginning of Q3, as I mentioned, and then following that, I think you'll see us begin pre-feasibility. We might do a little additional drilling, and depending on if we meet with success drilling those copper targets, we would be following up on that. So there should be significant news flow going forward. The majority of EV batteries now being produced in China are LFP and not NMC. I'm dubious that the demand for manganese is due to EV batteries. Please clarify. Well, all the studies that we see, manganese is used in the new chemistry. I think the Chinese have come up with a new chemistry that does use manganese also. I think one of the issues with the LFP batteries that the Chinese use, they don't seem to work well in cold conditions. So everything that we're seeing from the battery manufacturers, and we have been in talks with several, as well as several car manufacturers, is they're all looking for manganese for the batteries. So I think, and the people that we talk to in the manganese space seem to take a different approach, that it is going to be one of the key elements in the chemistry going forward. I think that almost wraps it up, unless there's any more questions. Let me just check. Yeah, I think that pretty well covers it off. So I'd be happy to, if there's any other questions, please feel free to either reach out to me on my cell, 604-760-5445, or mw@aftermathsilver.com. And I look forward to talking to all